So, Rebecca, you join us here today after your stint in the program. Obviously, from the pictures on Facebook, it was clearly a very successful wedding. So, talk to us a little bit about what happened in the build up to the wedding. Obviously, you came and worked with us in the program. What was the main motivation for you in regards to that?
I think really it was just mainly about fitting into my dress and looking good on photos. Really, I didn't want to look back at the photos and be like, oh, wish I tried harder, or don't like that angle, because that's always something that you do look at, don't you? So yeah, I think the main thing was those reasons really. I think after COVID and stuff, the dresses were all bought pre-COVID and the wedding had been rearranged, and then I think most people probably did gain weight during COVID, and it was a bit of a worry whether I could fit into the dress or not. So yeah, I just wanted to do as much as I could really, just to give it my all up until the wedding.
And I must say, you and Louisa both looked absolutely fabulous on the day. So the work that you did, from an outside perspective, seeing the journey that you went through, was 100% worth it. So what was it like on the day? Like when you were, you fit into your dress perfect, you're all done up nice. Like, how did you feel on the day?
Yeah, I felt really good. Didn't feel fat.
Well, you certainly look like you've kept up the work since you've left the program. But what was it like when you first started? Like when you first started tracking your food, doing the workouts and stuff, was it difficult? Did you enjoy it? What was your general experience with the actual program itself?
I think at first, for the first few days, it probably was a bit overwhelming, thinking there's loads to look at, loads of different things to do. But once you get your head around it, it's quite easy to follow, really. It's pretty basic. So yeah, it was okay after the first sort of week, when you get an idea on foods to eat, things to avoid and stuff like that, then it is quite simple. And the
Absolutely.
workouts, I actually enjoyed them. They weren't really hard. Like I found in the past before, if I do a workout or try and follow something else, it would be too like hardcore, like where you just can't keep up, and then you'd be like, oh, forget this, and turn it off and not finish it. But I could always finish them, and yeah, I think you could always make them harder or you could make them easier, so that was really good. And I think that's what kept me going as well, rather than just not bothering, because I felt like I could do it. Wasn't really, really difficult.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think I'm glad you've taken away from the program, because a lot of people do think that you have to, trash yourself into the floor. It has to be like the hardest thing that you've ever done in your life, and you've got to feel like really achy and really sore. When actually, if you analyze that, if you are aching really sore, then you're probably not going to be able to get another workout in for like 5 or 6 days. Whereas if you just go a little bit less, then you can probably get more in over the course of the week, and then overall, you end up doing more. So what was the most challenging thing for you in terms of nutrition? Because we all live in a world now where there's takeaways everywhere, there's cake shops everywhere. Like, food is such a massive part of our life. And I know now, obviously, you've got a business that's also very heavily involved in food as well. So how did you kind of create that discipline that allowed you to get the fat loss results that you got in the end?
I think mainly it was just planning. So for the day, what I would try and do is in the morning look at what I was going to eat that day. So I could count all the calories, check how much protein I was going to get from the things I was going to eat, and then sort of go from there and think, oh, later on, fancy something nice. I've got enough calories left over for some chocolate or bag of crisps or whatever it is, but I've still managed to get my protein target and the other targets, and that it's nice then, because you don't feel like you're restricting yourself too much. You can still have something nice, and rather than throwing it all away. And if you don't sort of plan and track that from the morning, when you get to the evening, you look at your thing, your MyFitnessPal, and you're like, oh god, I've only had like half the amount of protein I need, but I've eaten all my calories on chocolate. But if you plan from the morning, you know what you've got then. So I think that's the best thing to do. And I did also eat takeaways, and I didn't do every single workout. I fitted it into my life as best that I could without being too crazy about it, and I've still had really good results.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it does work.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, this is the ethos that we've always taught all of our clients, is that the simplest answer is always the best one. It's always the easiest one to follow, and it's always the one that makes the most sense. I think with a lot of, you know, diet programs out there, there's always some crazy level of restriction or like foods that you can't eat.
Yeah.
And as you just said, you know, you had chocolate, you had takeaways, you had foods that were high in calories, but you accounted for it just by being either sensible in the days before, sensible in the days after, or maybe just making a few adjustments so that you could fit that in. So what did that do for your enjoyment? Because I think people hear the word diet and it's like, you know, this almost like this taboo word, like people don't even want to say diet. I don't want to say that I'm on a diet. Did you feel like you were actually on a diet, or did it feel different?
No, not really. I mean, I think I remember saying to you one day, I think I had like a 3,000 calorie day by eating sweets and chocolate all day. So I went away for a few days, and I thought usually I just wouldn't bother counting calories or looking at what I eat, and then I'd just be like, I'll start again next week. But
Yeah.
I thought on that occasion, do you know what, I'm going to count how much I eat just so I get an idea. And I think I ate something like 3,500 calories, and then it just means that for the rest of the week you can pull it back rather than just going, oh, I'll try again next week and then losing a whole week. That's what I normally would do. So I think I didn't feel like I was restricted so much, because I did have the mentality, oh, I'll make up for it tomorrow, or I won't eat so much tomorrow, or over the week. And then when you average it out over the week, if you have a few lower days, it kind of balances itself out anyway. So
For sure.
It's good in that respect.
Yeah, I think your consistency was part of the reason, you know, you got that confidence early doors, because you got some quick wins under your belt with in terms of body fat percentage and stuff. And obviously having a look at your photos, and you could see that change actually happening before your eyes. I know, you know, a lot of people use scale weight to assess their progress, and sometimes it can be disheartening because the scales don't move. And you know, maybe that is because you've put on fat, or maybe actually you've just put on more lean muscle than you have taken off fat. So you talked before about that 3,500 calorie day. So were you surprised with, like, when you realized how many calories were in certain foods, and like how easy it was to kind of have a day like that?
Yeah. But then I also would see things and be like, oh, that's not too bad, actually I can eat more of that than I thought. And like one of the things that is good is like the high protein ice cream. And it's like you can eat nearly a whole tub of ice cream for hardly any calories, and you're getting protein. So it's like, that's, you know, that's great. Who doesn't want to eat that?
Yeah, shout out to Halo Ice Cream, by the way. We all appreciate the effort that you put in to make that product. And that's the great thing, you know, ultimately nowadays there are a lot of high calorie choices, takeaway, fast food, that kind of thing. And certainly that's something that we don't want to push people away from, because, you know, if you've done that for 10, 20, 30 years as part of, you know, like a family night that you have every week, or something that you do with your friends, then it's like you don't want to be that boring person who's like, oh, you know, I can't do curry night this week because I'm on a diet. You know, it's just the last place that you want to be. So just going back to the photos. So I know it was something that was a little bit foreign to you. And as you said, like some of the information at the start was overwhelming, taking your photos, tracking your body fat, all that kind of stuff. How did you feel taking your photos at the start compared to how you felt at the end? What was the mentality change between those two times?
I think you look forward to taking the photos because you can see a good difference. Like at the beginning, you know, it's pretty, when you look back, you think, well, it's quite embarrassing actually that I look like that. But then I think I don't really look like that in normal life. It's only because I'm standing in front of a mirror. But you know, it just, when you get further and further into it, you look forward to doing it so you can see your progress. So it is really good, and it's definitely helpful to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And again, sort of like getting away from that scale weight mentality, because especially as a woman, you know, with the menstrual cycle and hormonal fluctuations that you go through throughout the month, it can be, as we have seen with all the other girls that you were in the program with, it can be really demoralizing, you know, when you do have that scale weight mentality. So has your mentality to your weight changed since you finished in the program?
Yeah, I don't really bother to weigh myself now because I just know it's not the only thing to look at.
Yeah.
I think before you'd always just, that would be how you would measure yourself, really, would be on the scales. Whereas I didn't necessarily lose much weight, but you could really see a difference in body fat, and it makes you sort of realise how important it actually is, and how what your scale weight isn't really that important.
Yeah. I mean, I've always said to people, you know, unless you're a boxer, a jockey, or a swimmer, like, you know, your weight really is not, you know, there's nothing in life that requires you to be a certain weight. You know, I know there's obviously a lot of pressure on women to be a certain size, to be a certain weight. And I think, you know, we're starting to gradually move away from that stigma, which I think is great because, you know, again, it can affect your confidence. It can affect your confidence massively. So how's your confidence been since you've left the program? I know you've joined the gym and you've kept up a lot of the things that you did within the program. Do you still see a lot of the like habits and behaviors that you developed in the program to this day now? Like, have you felt like it's been quite, you know, quite manageable to keep that up?
Yeah, I think so. I always look at calories for things these days, whereas before I wouldn't really even think about it. I'd just eat whatever I wanted. But now I will look at calories, and, you know, if I think I want something nice, I'll see, you know, it's quite easy for me to open a pack of biscuits and eat the whole pack. Whereas now, if I look at them and be like, oh, there's however many calories in this, it does make you sort of think twice about it. And I'm not going to not eat stuff that I want to eat, because but it does make you sort of realise a few things. And I think I learned a lot doing the programme, and a lot of things that I will keep doing, like that, and steps. I always, you know, I got my smartwatch and I've got it on now, and I'll always try and get 10,000 steps a day, if not more.
Yeah.
I mean, the last few weeks I've been mega busy and I've been getting up to 17,000 steps a day. So it does, you know, it really helps.
Yeah.
And I do notice as well, if I don't wear my watch and I don't know how many steps I've done, I tend to just have a bit of a lazy day where I think, oh, well, I don't know what I'm on anyway, so I don't really, like, there's no point. Whereas if I've got my watch on, I'll look at my steps and be like, you know, like now I've only done 1,000, but I am going to be busy later. So I know I'll get up to however many, hopefully 10,000 at least before I go to bed. And the other night, I think, you know, I was about 500 steps off from 10,000, and I just marched around the house for a bit. Like, so those kind of things that I learned from the program, I will carry on. And it, you know, it's just things like that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I'm walking as well. I still go for walks now, like on my lunch, or if I haven't got my steps in, I will just go for a walk. So it's good things like that I will keep up.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you're still, you know, doing that kind of stuff, and that, you know, the program has had such a positive impact, not just when you were in it, but also after it as well. So you touched on kind of like the accountability factor there, even just of your watch, having something that creates this feeling of, oh, I need to do it. It's not just, I kind of know that I should do it. I kind of want to do it, but I can't really be bothered. So how is the accountability for you of having the group, having all those other, you know, girls in the group who are obviously, you know, either bridesmaids or brides moving towards this big wedding day? How is that for you, having that support and that accountability in terms of keeping you going throughout the process?
I think it does definitely help, because when you see people saying like, oh, I've eaten this, like good food, like low calorie meal, I'm hitting my targets for whatever targets they're doing, and you think, oh, I haven't done that. And then you think, right, I best try harder. Or you just get some good tips from people, like the ice cream. I learned that from like the group, and just you get a lot of ideas that you wouldn't have known about. And things like protein powder, and that like flavored like water drink that you put in the water, protein stuff, and it's all stuff like that you learn from other people that you wouldn't necessarily know. and you can see people's progress as well, and then it does give you a bit of a kick to say, oh, like that person's done really well. You don't want to end up falling behind and not doing so well, so it does keep you going and keep you motivated.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of like a friendly competition, isn't it? It's not like you're directly competing with these people or these other girls, and you're not trying to like win against them. It's not a case of that. It's just like, oh, like, because everybody has off weeks, right? Even inside, outside of the program, everybody has off weeks. So I think when you've got other people in the group who maybe have had a great week when you've had an average week, it kind of spurs you on to think, right, I need to get back to, doing the things that made me had a great week, 2-3 weeks ago. So definitely would agree with that. So if you were to go back and you were a bridesmaid again yourself, or you were a bride, I know that might be potentially on the horizon at some point, and you were in the position that you were when you first started, not feeling 100% about yourself, your body confidence, self-esteem, and all that kind of stuff, and you were considering the program, what would be your words of wisdom to somebody in that position?
Well, I'd say definitely join. It is 100% worth doing, and it'll just change your outlook on everything as well, and it just shows it can be enjoyable, and you can make good progress for not making that many sacrifices. And you definitely will see the results through doing it each week, and then it definitely keeps you going. So it's really worth doing, definitely. I would do it again if I was going to be bridesmaid, or God forbid, bride. It is really helpful, and it's just, and like I said before about friendly, well, you said about friendly competition, or I did it with my sister who was getting married, and we'd text each other throughout the day, like, how many steps are you on? And then we'd go out, and if she was on more than me, I'd go for a bigger walk, or I'd just go and do something, and then I'd text her back and be like, oh, I'm on this many now. And it's nice bit of a social aspect as well, because we would go for walks together, whereas we wouldn't really do that before. So you can just go for half an hour or an hour and go and like chat while you're walking and stuff. And so it's just really nice. And I think as well, if you do it with somebody else that it is really worthwhile.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that thing that you touched on before about like, that it can be enjoyable. I think maybe the perception is that if you're going to get in shape for your wedding, you're going to have to eat like a hamster for 6 or 12 months, and you have to do like these workouts, and they're not going to be enjoyable, and you're going to feel sore all the time, and you're going to be tired, and you're going to feel hungry, and like all this other kind of stuff. And I suppose, like, given what you've said so far, you had takeaways, you had food out, you had days where you had 3,500 calories, which from my remembrance, sounds like a day that was maybe double of what you would kind of normally have, but it didn't make a difference. You were still able to get really great progress within the program. And I have to say, it was one of my favorite transformations working with you and Louisa, because it was one of the first kind of bridal transformations that we've done. And it was nice, as you said, because obviously you're sisters and you were kind of doing it together and spurring each other on. So I think brides who come into the program in the future, if they've got, obviously, when you pick your bridesmaid, it's usually someone very close, right? It's a family member or it's a friend. So you can do it together and you can spur each other on, because, as you mentioned, not every day was perfect. So how did you deal with those, aside from like the calories and stuff? How did you deal with those bad days? Like what did a bad day kind of look like for you? What were the sort of obstacles that you faced whilst you were in the program? Because obviously you work, you've got other responsibilities outside of it as well. What were those days like for you?
I think it was just like on busy days, if I was working and doing other things, or if I knew I was going out after work, or sometimes for food or whatever, and also living with somebody and then they want to eat takeaways and things as well. I think that's the hardest part about it, is to either say no or pick something maybe that's not so bad. We found KFC was quite a good one. You get your protein in, and you can fit small KFC in your calories for the day.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the planning, the preparation, that would be sort of the biggest obstacle really, is to make sure you are like planning for the day, or if you're going to be out the house all day, it's quite difficult, with anything that you do, isn't it, to make sure you've got your food, and that you won't then end up thinking, oh, I haven't had time to make my lunch, I'll just grab something from the shop while I'm out, or that's the main thing really, I'd say.
Yeah, and it's hard, isn't it? Like, unless you're going to the deli counter in the supermarket, if you go into a corner shop, it's generally packet sandwiches, crisps and chocolate, which, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're doing that on a regular basis, it's probably going to be very difficult for you to manage that calorie intake and ultimately improve your body composition so you can fit into your dress, have the confidence, and, have that glow on that special day. So, well, it's been great speaking to you, and it's been great, to know that the program's had such a positive effect, both for the wedding and after it as well. And I look forward to hearing more about your progress in the future.
Thank you.